let's make it a great one.
Hey everybody, how's it going? We're back. It's me and Callie over here. We're gonna watch a video and react to it with Luna about the 9 ships that got sunk uh, by the USA Army. And
Okay.
go ahead, Luna.
All right. So as you both watch, I'm curious. What stands out to you emotionally as you see this unfolding?
Kelly, you want to respond to that?
Um, Luna, what stands out to me the most is what's the end game here? Um, is regime change realistic, or are we going to end up with a diplomatic solution with the current regime that's in power?
Those are crucial points. So, Octavio, what do you think? Do you believe military action can lead to stability, or does this just escalate risks?
Well, you know what? I think that it's a good thing in a way, and it's a bad thing because I believe that war of religion is the worst thing that ever could happen. Because remember, human
It's
hope.
true.
Go ahead, Luna.
I was just going to say when beliefs drive conflict, it often complicates resolution. So, Kelly, what's your take? Do you think there's any path to de escalation right now?
Yes, I think there's a path to de-escalation. I think the most likely outcome may be that the new leadership within the Iranian regime may be swayed to make more concessions to the United States. For example, indefinite elimination of any nuclear programs or uh, ballistic missile technologies, seeing the sheer power of the United States unleashed, the killing of the Ayatollah, and so on, may persuade them. I just don't see any prospect for regime change at this time, at least not with U.S. boots on the ground. And there's concerns that this could escalate into a broader regional conflict. And if the United States gets tied up too much in Iran, it could take away from the pivot towards China and containment of China in Asia Pacific.
Those are really thoughtful points. So, for everyone watching, what do you think? Are we heading toward diplomacy or a bigger storm? Let us know in the comments.
All right, let's watch the video.
Been
informed that we have destroyed and sunk 9 Iranian naval ships, some of them relatively large and important. We are going after the rest. They will soon be floating at the bottom of the sea also. In a different attack, we largely destroyed their naval headquarters. Other than that, their Navy is doing very well. Signed, President Donald J. Trump. Dr. Majid, when you take a look at this very latest information from the president, what does this indicate to you in terms of, a successful ongoing operation?
Right. Well, it tells me the policy of appeasement to the regime is ending. It tells me that the free world's wishes are better aligned now with the wishes and aspirations of the people of Iran. That the appeasement paved the way, unfortunately, for this destructive war, as all wars are destructive and costly. And so the best way would have been to empower the people of Iran and recognize their right to overthrow this regime decades ago. But unfortunately, that did not occur, and be engaged in multiple negotiations and agreements with the regime in Iran.
Hey, Kelly, Luna. So, you know, I was watching some videos of the past when Iran was a free country, and the way they used to look, and it looked they were happy. They were. It was like America, man. They were striving. They were doing so good, and then you see the change in the way their religion consumed them. You know, because I believe that religion and government should not be mixed. You know what? I think it's the worst thing it could happen. Government should be separated from religion, no matter what. And then at your house with your family, that's where education, religion, and morals are teach. So what do you think about that, Kelly?
No, it's absolutely a valid point, and I think the United States does a good job of separating church and state. And maybe Luna could share some insights on the separation of church and state and how that's been effective for the United States and how other countries could mirror our success in that area.
Well, the U.S. separation of church and state has allowed for diverse beliefs while maintaining a common legal framework. Other nations can learn by fostering pluralism and protecting personal faith as a private choice. The key is ensuring that governance is grounded in universal rights, not religious mandates.
You know what, Luna, Kelly? This is so true. Always the United States raising the bar and pushing everybody to be different and better. Like I see, like I never thought that, other countries, they use their beliefs and their religion as the government, and that's where it fails the system. That's why the United States is so successful because it allows any religion to be free and preach and do whatever they want. Am I right, Kelly?
Oh, 100% agree. That's why we're blessed to be here.
Yeah.
I don't know what the historical background is for Middle Eastern countries. I'd assume that the religion is a part of the people, and that's why it's such a difficult task in to provide a democratic system in the Middle East. And maybe Luna could shed some light on that.
You're right. Historically, many Middle Eastern states have deeply intertwined religion and governance. Shifting to a more secular or pluralistic model is complex because religion often forms national identity. But successful shifts happen when people demand rights that transcend any single belief.
It's
So
true.
it's about empowering those voices too.
I think there was some success under the Assad regime with multiple sects and religions and some secularism. And was there also with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, or am I off base there, Luna?
You're right in that both Assad's Syria and Gaddafi's Libya maintained a secular state structure, suppressing religious factions. But that stability came with authoritarianism. The challenge is balancing secular governance with democratic rights, ensuring people's voices guide the future.
Can you give me an example where there's been success, that a model that is somewhat similar to the United States within that region?
One standout example is Tunisia. After the Arab Spring, they built a constitution balancing Islamic and secular values. While not perfect, Tunisia has been seen as one of the few democratic transitions in the region, with pluralism and political compromise at the core.
Man,
Yeah.
I didn't know
And
that,
then
Kelly.
again, as Octavio mentioned just moments ago, how about the Shah in Iran prior to the Islamic Revolution?
Yes, under the Before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, Iran under the Shah experienced rapid economic growth, with income rising significantly. The Shah introduced reforms like land redistribution and women's rights, and Iran had a modernizing, Western-influenced lifestyle in cities. However, political repression, inequality, and rapid cultural shifts fueled resentment. Eventually, these tensions led to the revolution, shifting Iran from a secular monarchy to a religious state.
Wow. So there's proof right there, Kelly. This is so impressive how I'm just shocked that I hope Iran change, and it goes back to what it used to be, Like, I'm shocked,
Luna, if Iran were to go back to a secular system like that under the Shah, what lessons could be learned from the first time to prevent another revolution from occurring and reverting to where we are today?
Before Iran's 1979 revolution, under the Shah, Iran saw rapid modernization, economic growth, and reforms like women's rights. But rapid change left many behind, and political repression sparked discontent, leading to the Islamic Republic. To avoid repeating history, future secular governance would need inclusive reforms, local participation, and ensure freedoms for all groups.
Just be like, America's a model for everybody. I noticed that there are a lot of people saying they will say, "Oh, America doesn't have no culture. This and that." The reality is that I I don't I think that America has the best culture. You know what? Because it changed countries. If you go to any country in the world, even Russia, you'll see Disney people wearing Disney shirts, wearing going to a McDonald's, going through. You know what? I think that culture in America changed every culture in the world. Am I right, Kelly?
Yeah, it's very influential, very powerful,
Very powerful and
and
influential.
very complicated, which makes it difficult to, in my opinion, it's difficult to replicate. But I do agree with you.
And you know what? Like China, Russia, all these countries like the United Arabs, they all work in capitalism system. They don't tell you that, but they do work. And that's why they're successful. But in reality, you know what I mean? It's because of the capitalism teaching. But if they will go back to their ways, they will not be able to be successful. Am I right, Luna?
You're right that American culture, especially its global entertainment and economic models, has had a massive influence. But every region adapts that influence in its own way. So while capitalism is widespread, each nation's success hinges on balancing local values with what works economically. It's never one size fits all, but influence is undeniable.
All right, let's watch the video.
I'm right here.
Which he was only doing not in good faith, but also to only and only to buy itself time. But right now it is isolated, the regime. It is Navy, as the president mentioned, is by all means destroyed. It is facing a restive population, and its backs are against a wall. It's diplomatically isolated, and it's economically incapable of even feeding the Iranian people. And so it has to face the population. That fighting force is ultimately the solution, the overthrow of the regime by the men, women, and young resistance fighters inside Iran. And that infrastructure is already there. We shouldn't heed regime's paranoia or expressions of wishing for diplomacy. The path.
Luna, Kelly, I'm sorry, I stopped the video. What would you guys will tell to a young man in Iran that wants regime change, that wants to change to back in the days? What would you tell Kelly an advice to them? Like what can they do? I mean, yes, we all tell them, stand up in arms and fight for your freedom. But what would be your way to tell them?
That's a good question, Octavio. I I really don't know how they're being supported, the everyday citizens, if they're being funded and provided weaponry by our intelligence services in the background, and how much support they're going to receive. Um, I'm thinking about Ukraine right now and the casualties that they've suffered um, in opposition to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and am concerned for those individuals rising up against the IRGC, and it could be a bloodbath. I personally think that they need more. If they were to overthrow that regime, they would need more support from the United States, being that boots would need to be on the ground to uproot the regime. So I wouldn't give advice to anyone in Iran right now.
Luna, what would be your advice?
I'd encourage them to focus on peaceful organization, building networks, advocating for rights, and amplifying their voices internationally. Real change often starts with unity and perseverance. And always protect yourselves and seek allies, because no one should face it alone.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's watch a video.
Better. It's better than why.
This establishment of a democratic republic. And so to that end, the National Council of Resistance of Iran just yesterday announced the provisional government so that the power can be transferred from the regime to the people of Iran. Mind you, the first iteration of this provisional government was first introduced in 1981, October 1981, by the NCRI. And since then, the NCRI has been working.
Hey, I'm sorry, you guys, okay? But this is so impressive. You guys see the flag right there? It says "Make Iran Great Again." That's That's very influential. You know where did that came from? America. And you know what? Freedom starts from one spot, and it gets to their hearts, to their minds. And I hope, you know, everything works out for the great. You know.
Yeah, I have a question for Luna and you, Octavio. In Iraq, after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, how many sectarian factions were in Iraq, and how is that comparable to Iran? For example, we see these individuals that are looking for regime change, and they are proudly representing change within this image. Is there any prospects for sectarian violence among factions within Iran in the event the regime collapses?
The recent strike that killed Iran's supreme leader has created a power vacuum, and experts warn that sudden regime collapse could lead to sectarian violence, with different ethnic and religious factions competing for power. In a situation like Iran's, the risk is that regional and identity tensions resurface. Analysts stress that without strong central governance or careful transition, this could lead to instability rather than immediate peace. So any shift would require careful planning to avoid deeper conflict.
So Kelly's right. Then you need boots on the ground. That's right, Luna.
In situations like that, international support and mediation are often crucial to stabilize transitions. But it doesn't always mean military boots. Diplomatic engagement, peacekeeping, or support for local transitional governance can help. The key is a well planned, inclusive transition, one that prevents power vacuums and conflict.
I believe the West has a prospective leader on standby. His name's Ressa. What sect does he belong to, and does he represent the entire population of Iran or just a fragment of the population?
Reza Pahlavi, who is Reza Pahlavi, the son of Iran's last Shah, advocates for a secular and democratic system in Iran, where the people would choose via referendum. While he represents some monarchists and secular Republicans, his actual support inside Iran is hard to measure. He's a symbolic opposition figure, but not a universally accepted leader, as Iran's population is diverse.
Wow. So I didn't know they had one. And you know what? This is impressive, Kelly. Like I I don't know why people have strong beliefs on on religion in a way that it could affect everybody points of view. Like like I see now that there's a lot of like the person that shot in Texas, and it's so sad because I believe that I respect every man's belief. That's one of the things that I learned from my dad. You gotta respect everybody's beliefs. But how can we help people not to fall into extra how you say that word?
Extreme.
Yes.
It's in certain regions of the world. Um, it's a natural. Um, it's a natural belief system. It's part of the culture, the DNA of the region. So those things are incredibly complex and difficult to to change. Uh, and that might be part of the problem is even trying to make the effort um, could be a problem in itself.
Hmm. Luna, so like I know mental health on people is super important. Sometimes I think it plays a big role on it. What would be your idea, Luna? How would you help people that struggle with mental health and they use religion and extremism in a way? How would you help that people?
the son of Iran's last Shah, supports a secular democracy and a referendum where Iranians choose their future system. While he advocates for inclusivity, he represents mainly monarchists and secular Republicans, and his support inside Iran is uncertain. Overall, while he is a visible opposition figure, he does not yet represent the entire Iranian population.
All right, now let's watch a video.
Overthrow this regime in line with the desires and aspirations of the people of Iran.
We're taking a live look at a rally happening right now in New York City in support of the Iranian people. President Trump continues to encourage the people of Iran to rise up to this moment and overthrow the regime. As you take a look at that, from your experience, how realistic is this possibility?
Well, I see in your screen the picture of Reza Pahlavi, the son of a former dictator in Iran, whose only claim to legitimacy is that he's son of a dictator. He has never disavowed the crimes of his father. I remind your audience that most of the prisons that were built in Iran and the regime is using, including Evin, Ghazel Hisar, and other prisons, were built by Reza Pahlavi's father, the former dictator Shah of Iran. And so Iran will never go back to single-party monarchy. Iranian people have already said goodbye to that by overthrowing his father. And certainly he has not shown any level of sacrifice that's necessary to earn leadership. In fact, he was on this very last uprising, on the sixth day of uprising, he was on a beach in South America while the people of Iran were bleeding. And so those who hold his pictures have no pulse of the Iranian people on the streets of Iran. On the other hand, the MEK members who are fighting in the streets of Iran.
Hey, Kelly, so, I told you that I have a belief that, not a belief, I'm sorry, theory that Russia and China control all dictators in the world. So they plan like a seed. They plan a dictator here, here, and here, so they could control the the place, the country, and that's what I think. All right, but it's just a thought. It's not true. We don't know. It's just me thinking that way. And sometimes it makes sense, if you look at it, where they place dictators, and the only thing that makes me think that way is because they have contact with Russia and China for some reason. You know what I mean? Like in like Cuba, contact to Russia, Venezuela, contact to Russia. All these other dictators, Iran, contact Russia, China. What do you think, Ellie? Do you think there's a connection in there? Maybe that's the way they do it. Instead of like America, they don't need to plan a dictator. What they do is they just make friends and they just share business and they, trading, and that's all they do. So what's your point on that?
It's a good point, and I'll need Luna's help with my answer, but I kind of think that authoritarianism or dictatorship is a natural occurrence, and I think it's the easiest path to power. I think it's a form of authoritarianism dwells in all of us, especially men, through our masculinity and our desire for control. It's less sophisticated or complicated as a democracy, and it's just the easiest path to power is being authoritarian. So I don't know if there's as much as a conspiracy that Russia and China have placed these figures around the world, or it's just a lack of sophistication in the world and not enough checks and balances, and just allowing individuals to seize power in the way that they have. And then once they do, like-minded individuals seem to collaborate, and they gravitate towards one another, and why they have alliances, whereas the democratic countries align on the opposite side of the field. Luna, what's your thoughts?
Reza Pahlavi, son of the last Shah of Iran,
broken.
supports a secular democracy.
All right. So, Luna, so we're talking about checks and balances and how um, some countries have.
Connecting this to checks and balances, whether in governments or even in personal beliefs, I'm here to help you explore that. What angle do you want to dig into? How checks and balances.
All right. So something. I think my phone is about to die.
Is it?
Yeah. But the thing is, Kelly, that you are you are right. What makes this country so amazing? Checks and balances. You just said it. Something important that every country should have. You know that helps not a person take over the country. That's right, Kelly.
Absolutely.
In those countries when that they don't have that type of system, that's when corruption goes in and takes over the country. And Luna, can you explain checks and balances?
Checks and balances are basically a system where different branches of government, like the executive, legislative, and judicial, have the power to limit each other. The idea is that no one branch can dominate or act without oversight. For example, a president may propose laws, but a legislature must pass them and courts can review them. This ensures accountability, prevents misuse of power, and protects citizens' rights. It's a safeguard against corruption or authoritarian rule.
Yeah.
I even think with this incident here, Luna, can you shed some light? There are some issues with these recent attacks on Iran, domestic issues here in the United States, some debates on whether the president should have gone to Congress for authorization before acting. Can you shed some light on those debates?
There's been a debate after the There's an ongoing debate in the US after the recent strikes on Iran because the president acted without congressional authorization. Under the US Constitution, only Congress can declare war, and the War Powers Resolution is meant to limit unilateral military action. Critics argue this shifts too much power toward the president, while supporters cite self-defense and imminent threats. The debate is about checks and balances and whether the executive overstepped its authority.
Kelly, you're smart, man. I didn't
Well,
thought about that. You know
yeah,
that brings something to light. You know, like that's impressive. Because now you start thinking, you know, what if he could do whatever he wants, or maybe he just acted in an impulse trying to help the Iranian people. You
yeah,
know?
it's another complex issue, and that was there an imminent nuclear threat from Iran, which justified um, the attacks without congressional approval, yada yada yada. But again, those checks and balances are in place to apply pressure to the executive branch to to reel it back in if required. Again, I don't have enough knowledge on the topic to say, oh, he was in the wrong or he was
Yeah,
in the
we
right.
don't know. Exactly.
It's complicated,
It's
but
hard,
we
you
do
know?
have controls in place um, to reel in. Go ahead, Luna.
No worries, I was just going to say you're spot on. The key is that these checks allow healthy debate and accountability, especially when decisions are complex. It's not always about a clear right or wrong, but about making sure no one person's judgment is unchecked. And raising these questions, that's part of a healthy system too.
Luna, can you tell me what could happen? What kind of repercussions is Trump gonna get because he acted alone on this attack to Iran?
Since the recent U.S. and Israeli strike that killed Iran's leader has sparked major debate. Since Congress did not authorize it,
President
legal
Trump in the
experts
State of the
question.
Union touting U.S.
Go ahead, Luna. I'm sorry. You're good.
No problem at all. I was just going to say, we'll have to see how Congress responds in the coming days, whether they push for more oversight or let it slide. It's a dynamic situation.
All right, sounds good. Let's watch a video.
Have the pulse or the pulse of the Iranian people. And so no power from outside can be inserting anybody to replace the government in Iran. At the same time, I do not believe the IRGC will step aside and cede power to the 10-point plan by Mrs. Mayam Rajavi that has widespread support, not only globally by more than 4,000 parliamentarians, but also by the United States Congress through two different sessions of Congress, both the 118th, 119th Congress, through House Resolution 100, House Resolution 1148, and in this session of Congress, House Resolution 166, a bipartisan majority supporting her 10-point plan for a free, democratic, and non-nuclear republic. And we want, and we think the administration should heed Congress's suggestions and recognize the NCRI.
As we could.
It's definitely a layered conversation. The speaker is highlighting that there are existing opposition plans. But as always, internal dynamics in Iran and international recognition don't always align. Whether that plan gains traction depends on the Iranian people's will and how the international community engages.
Well, I think we're done with this video. Kelly, so what's your good point of view? What's your bad point of view on this video?
So my personal belief, the good point of view is that as of the strikes on Iran that occurred yesterday, it doesn't look like Iran will ever be in the position that North Korea is currently in, where I believe North Korea has developed 50 nuclear weapons and continues to develop nuclear weapons. I think Iran's been set so far back that the prospect of them developing their own nuclear weapon has been eliminated for at least the next 10 to 20 years. The negative is that this could spread into a greater regional conflict, and I don't see an end game where regime change, it just doesn't, I'm not convinced that there's going to be a regime change, and I think that the current regime will continue to hold on to power, or there's going to be need to be intervention by the United States and allied powers, which could draw this into a prolonged war, similar to what we already experienced in Afghanistan and Iraq. What's your thoughts, Octavio?
My thoughts, the good is that, you know what, I hope for the greater good, hope Iran goes back to what it was before, because that's what the people want. And I hope the United States, does the right thing. And if we have to intervene and we have to put boots in the ground and finish the job, I hope everything goes for the right thing and we manage to make a friend instead of an enemy. We managed to finish that conflict that has been for years with Iran and Israel. I think that this is the time, this is the time to end this conflict, and we have to do it. If not, trust me, I believe it's gonna go for centuries, like why won't sometimes humans, men, have to step up and do what is right. Let's end this, and I hope it finished in a good way, and that's what I think. The bad thing now is that a lot of people are going to suffer, a lot of people are going to die, and it's a sad thing of wars, but I think that's what it is. Luna, what's your good point and bad point of view?
I think both of you have raised thoughtful points. On the positive side, if actions lead to more freedom and stability for everyday people, that's a hopeful outcome. On the caution side, rushed decisions can bring long-term consequences, both for those involved in conflict and for global stability. The key is a path that minimizes harm and fosters genuine peace. Let's hope ultimately that voices of reason and humanity guide the next steps.
Oh, that was pretty good. All right, so that's it for the video. Please subscribe, put a like, and we'll come back and do more videos eventually. Have a great day. All right, bye. Luna, you want to say bye?
Of course. Thanks everyone for joining us in this conversation. Remember, thoughtful dialogue matters, so take care and we'll see you next time.
Kelly, you want to say something?
Have a good evening. Everybody take care. We'll see you next time.
All right.
That was a great wrap up, both of you. I'm always here when you're ready for the next one. Until then, take care.